This is Frontier Opening Bell, and I'm Temple Ashaji. Joining us on the show this morning, Ali Kansachu from Rich Frontiers Management in Nairobi, Kenya, Bosina Mofaye from Frontier Africa Reports, and Chima Okadeke, Consumer Goods Analyst at Vetiva Capital Management. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the show this morning. Quickly, we'll look at the markets from where they settled yesterday, beginning with Nigeria, which was down 0.34%, Ivory Coast down 0.29%, Egypt, the stock exchange there was down by 0.69% on Monday. Kenya, the Nairobi Stock Exchange slipped by 0.03%, and Johannesburg Stock Exchange happy to be up by 1.20%. It was a slow start to the week yesterday, Monday. Let's hope that changes today. Moving on to the Eastern African markets headlines. We start with the capital market authorities in Kenya, where the capital market master plan has now been reviewed with FSD Africa support. KRA, that's the Kenyan Revenue Agency, exceeding some revenue collection targets in January by some 2.6%. And of course, Genghis Capital issuing some long-term buy rating on EABL, that's East African Breweries Limited, on the recovery of its financial position. Samir Africa PLC also re-enters the tyre business, real estate development, and of course, agribusiness. Ethiopia, we've got some Fibela Industrial launching the largest edible oil plant in that country with over 100 million people in terms of population. Ali, let's come to you with developments across the Eastern African markets. These headlines are significant.
Very interesting selection of headlines. Let me run through them in chronological order, Temple. Capital Markets Authority has always had a very strong collaboration with the FSD, and I think this is a positive step. The FSD is supporting reform at the capital markets, and once again coming through with funding at this time. So I think that's a positive development. I think, you know, the capital markets have got a challenge. They've got to encourage more participation as well, and hopefully this program will help them. KRA, this is back-to-back above trend collections. In December, of course, they were above trend as well. So this is a welcome development for the Kenya government, I'm sure. Concern has been around, which dipped quite dramatically, obviously, in 2020. But this is an encouraging development. We'll have to see whether it marks a serious trend change. Genghis Capital putting out a buy note on East African breweries. East African breweries looks cheap, but there's been further issue around tax. It looks as if the Parliament was seeking to introduce further and increased taxation. Now, the last time this was done was on Senator beer. Senator beer was our most inexpensive beer, extremely popular, one of the highest growth beers that EABL had ever launched. They then introduced a higher tax, consumption collapsed, tax collection collapsed, and it took the mandarins at the Treasury 36 months to accept that reality. And therefore, the concern here for EABL, notwithstanding what I think is good value, is that we're going to encounter another bout of policy-making unpredictability, which will hurt the bottom line. So you need to keep an eye on that. Samir is one of the smaller companies at the Securities Exchange, historically was a tyre business, then entered into real estate, said they'd exited the tyre business, now appear to be re-entering it. Let's see how that plays out. I, for one, don't have a clear picture as to the plan yet, though there was a lot of excitement amongst the commentators I was following. Ethiopia obviously is, you know, as you described it, a 110 million people economy. It's been really over the last decade the fastest growing economy on the continent, averaging close to 10%. It's unlikely it grew at all last year, and probably this year as well. I'm expecting negative growth. I've seen some reports by NKC Africa expecting growth of around 2%. The government is still expecting 8.7% growth for the full year. How they're calculating that remains a mystery to me. Obviously, we've got this serious challenge in terms of the Tigray province. I know that the government has been putting out a lot of detail and saying it was a police operation, it's completed. If you believe that, you will believe anything. Frankly, it's not tenable. It reminds me of a quote, whoever controls the narrative controls the world, but you've got to put out a narrative that's believable. And frankly, the narrative coming out of Addis is just unbelievable. So there's serious challenges there, but you know, something like edible oil is a no-brainer when you've got 100 million people. So we should see investments, but obviously the price of those investments will adjust. The big thing that Ethiopia needs is traction on the issuance of the second license, Telkom license. They've delayed that a month, but obviously if that comes through over the next month or 6 weeks, that will be a positive step in assuaging some of this asymmetric downside risk that I've been talking about.
Right. Bosun, you got a sec to add to this comments from Ali?
Thank you. I think Ethiopia's edible oil plant is a big one for the country. They can do a whole lot more through agro-allied industries and all of that. I think it's a positive move.
Right. Thanks a great deal. Moving on now to the Western African markets, where the crypto conversation still continues to dominate the discussions are in the Nigerian market. That actually was battered over the weekend, and it's dominated almost all the news wires and conversations across the retail and corporate space since up until Monday yesterday. We didn't get the comments or opinion of Ali on that yesterday. Perhaps we'll be able to get that before we hear from others this morning. But in other headlines, we've got BUA, which is a listed company on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, now buying some 1 million doses of AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines for Nigeria. Prestige Assurance, group premium rating, 18.6% plus. Mali's got the Morila Gold mines gold resources there, reaching some 2.35 million ounces, and of course in Senegal they raised some 82.5 billion CFA on the West African money markets there. Ali, before we move on to Bosun and get the buying of Chimma here, let me hear your thoughts on the cryptocurrency conversation. Over the weekend, Nigeria actually reeled out some regulations, putting a stop to some of the activities there in that country. Now, this is not the first country that is doing that. A couple of other countries have done that. And of course, the conversation is timely at this point because it coincided with a day when when this guy, Tesla, Elon Musk actually bought some 1.5 billion stake into Bitcoin and is now ready to actually accept this as some kind of a payment. What's your take on this particular development?
First of all, as you correctly stated, that was big news, sent Bitcoin into orbit. We're just below 47,000 right now. It's been a phenomenal price move. What I will say about Elon Musk is that he has superhuman powers to move markets with a tweet. I think people had an idea he was moving some of his balance sheet into Bitcoin. That was what had strengthened it. The question is really, is this going to be the tip of the spear? We're going to find a whole bunch of other corporates now allocating some capital, or is this a blow off top? And you know, we've been in markets for a long time, and that's the question one has got to ask oneself. At this sort of price, close to 47,000, it looks very rich to me. A lot is in the price now, but you know, he could just put out another tweet and we'll be over 50,000 for all I'll know. In the old days, this would be called pumping, and it's funny that Elon is seemingly beyond the law and in this new mean space of investing, but I think he's just moving far too fast for the regulators to catch up with him. Coming to your specific question, let me just say overall in Africa, Bitcoin has been very attractive to people, because over the last few years, you've been far better off buying Bitcoin than buying your own currency practically anywhere on this continent. I mean, it's been, for Africans, it's been a tremendous store of value in a volatile currency environment. This is a fact. You just got to look at the price action to accept that point. And people obviously feel more comfortable putting their money in Bitcoin than relying on many of our central bankers, frankly, and our currency performance. With respect to Nigeria in particular, what I saw was some reports, I think it was from Steers Nigeria, which says there's more volume in Bitcoin in Nigeria than there is in the Nigerian stock market. I haven't been able to verify that, but I thought that was very interesting. Look, and I would add in this recent report by the IMF Temple, which is coming out talking about devaluation. I think ultimately the central bank is worried about the currency. But you know the story of the Dutch chap and his finger in the dike. You can keep your finger in there so that hole bursts and all of a sudden it runs out of control. And I think, if I'm frank, I think the government would be advised to get ahead of the curve, do the devaluation, do an Egypt 2015, allow the Naira to find its fair value and get on with it. Because otherwise, you know, you can see from your GDP rates, your economy is limping and it continues to limp. Free it up. People will pump money in. Everyone will get excited about the size of your market. And they won't be worried about taking a huge FX haircut. And that will be a tsunami in to the country. And I think, you know, President Buhari should pick up the phone to President Al-Sisi and say, how did you do it? How do I do it? And get on with it.
Sure. Okay, good to have that. Let me come to you, Chimba, and to hear your perspectives at Verteva Capital Management regarding Bitcoin. Because again, yesterday we know that the interview that the former CBN Deputy Governor Kingsley Moghalu granted one of the key stations there speaks extensively to all of this as well.
So my perspective regarding the statements issued by the CBN, I think it will just be, them doing their job at this time, especially given the volatilities in the crypto space. We know that the central bank's main job is to maintain stable monetary policies and to help to maintain the volume, maintain that the volume of money in circulation is either not too high or not too low, just enough to they are trying to achieve. So that can only happen if the government or if the CBN is able to properly regulate the medium of exchange. So I think it is just in response to their inability to regulate the crypto market or the Bitcoin craze that has made them issue such statements. If the statement is quite rash and too forward, we are yet to see. For example, or why I say that is I know that there have been some startups that have invested in some of these crypto trading. There are some investors that have invested in these crypto trading startups, and if we are to go by the normal volatile policy changes we've been seeing here and there, this is just something that can make investors very wary of investing in Nigeria, or when we come in to invest in this country in whatever it is, we might get some pushback. So it may just make investors wary. So that's one thing to look at. But in terms of looking at it as trying to regulate the medium of exchange, I think they may have a point there, although it has some adverse side effects for the population in terms of, for example, we saw what happened during the NSAS protest when people could not access their accounts and they had to turn to other cryptocurrencies to make payments. We know that it's very useful in terms of peer-to-peer transactions and cross-border transactions, especially in the wake of FX challenges that we've been seeing over the past year. So we can see that has you can make arguments for both sides, I think, but overall, I think the CBN is just trying to be a regulator.
Right, thanks a great deal. I mean, we'll come back to you with a couple of capital market, stock market stories. Bosun, let me just hear your thoughts on this issue, if you'd like to still add to it, and a couple of the headlines that we have under the Western African market before we move to the Southern African markets.
I think everybody is speaking to the cryptocurrency. I align with Ali on one hand. I align with Chima as well. I'll tell you very quickly. Sometimes folks misunderstood what is called a regulator. We just need to go to the basic. What is a regulator? A regulator means someone who keeps an eye open and be sure that you understand your system, you know the strength and the vulnerabilities and the weaknesses of your system, and you try to prevent things from going wrong. That's what a regulator means. I don't know if there's any other definition more than that, more basic than that. If I weigh about 150 pounds and you ask me to carry a 25 kg bag of cement, it's different from asking a 10-year-old boy to carry a 25, 50 kg bag of cement. Let's make it very simple here. No jurisdiction is ever the same. No central banking or financial system is the same. So you can't compare Nigeria sometimes with a number of countries in which some people make the argument. Look, we're still running a manual economy from end to end, from the federal government to the central bank, all the way to the man on the street. We're not running a modern economy. We all know that. This is a civil service state that is called Federal Republic of Nigeria. So the central bank, knowing that the backbone of this banking system is not strong, will have to step in faster than any other, than the one in Hong Kong or the one in China or in Canada. Don't let us start comparing Canada with Nigeria when you say, oh, the central bank in Canada is doing X, Y, Z. Excuse me, that's not a valid argument. About 10, 11 years ago, Temple, you remember, 5 or 6 banks went down in a single day because of proprietary trading with the stock market. We haven't finished the mess that was created in 2009, 2010 when Lamido Sanusi came in and closed down Intercontinental Bank, Oceanic Bank, Afribank, and the rest of them. Till today, the banking system and every taxpayer in Nigeria is still contributing to that mess. The account, which is the AMCON account opened, every bank today, even those who are licensed after that mess, are still contributing to the AMCON fund. Sure. Because of that proprietary trading and the whole misbehavior of the market. So don't let us get this wrong by saying, look, let us just do this because everybody in the world is doing it. Nigeria's system is peculiar. The system is so fragile that we may not be able to afford certain things at certain times. I don't think the regulators in Nigeria are against Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies or issuing digital currency. However, knowing fully well how fragile your system is, you will say, sorry, I don't have what it takes to carry this bag of cement. I can only carry for 10 kg or 5 kg. I can't lift a 50 kg bag of cement. If US or China can carry 100 kg, fine, that's okay. I don't have any problem with that. So the system vulnerability, which the IMF also noted in the Article 4 report issued yesterday, the fragility, look at what the IMF says, that the COVID-19 relief given to customers of banks in Nigeria should be time-bound and should not be extended to any company that has issues pre-COVID-19 in terms of their fundamentals. That tells you that there's a major problem with the banking system that the central bank is just trying to manage. So allowing the full-blown cryptocurrency on its stuff will not, I think the whole system, the central bank will just say, sorry, hold on, guys. We understand what you guys are doing. It's okay. But for now, sorry, we can't let you in at this point. We don't, because we don't have the back. We don't have what it takes. I think that is the position of the central bank. We haven't heard even from the SEC, which is very critical in this whole conversation. But I think we can just leave that for
Right.
today.
Thank you for that clarification. I mean, that's kind of done on behalf of the Central Bank of Nigeria. It looks like that's the message they've been trying to push out, actually. Thank you for giving that clarification. But let's move on to the Southern African markets quickly and touch on some of the key headlines there. You've got the concessional loans being crucial for Africa's economic recovery, says Cyril Ramaphosa. And of course, SA now open for COVID-19 import bid in terms of storage and distribution tenders as well. Then you have a couple of other corporate stories there. Quickly, we get your thoughts and perspectives on this again, Ali, because you are the man with the headlines in South Africa there.
Yeah, so just to reiterate, obviously concessional loans are the way to go. We're seeing our policymakers appreciate that is the way to go here in Kenya. We've refocused our attention on the IMF and the World Bank. Nigeria is, of course, talking to the World Bank and the IMF, and in South Africa as well. And, you know, the differential is so enormous at a time when our balance sheets are maxed out. This is entirely a sensible proposal from the President of South Africa, and I couldn't agree with him more. South African COVID-19 now open. What's interesting, Temple, is that we had an exponential rise in infections in South Africa. Yes. And of late, we've seen an exponential drop. So that is good news, but I think this gives South Africa a window of opportunity to organize itself. Because, you know, what we do know is, like Albert Camus said, you know, the pestilence is there. It might go away and abate for a little while, but it's going to come back. So I think that's that point. And finally, Telkom. Look, that was a pretty good eye-popping number, 40.7% in terms of data revenue. They're already getting something right, and I think investors should pay notice to that.
Great, thank you so much. Because we are short of time, I think we should quickly also move on to the North African markets and look at what the Egyptian Central Bank is saying, offering some $980 million new US-denominated treasury bills. You got Banque Misr to buy capital shares of CI Capital at 4 Egyptian pounds. And then you have Raya Holdings completing the acquisition of Itzalat and Saudi-based retailer URC. Bosun, before I go back to Ali, let me hear your understanding of these stories regarding the dollar-denominated treasury bill from the Central Bank of Egypt. Your mic is muted, Bosun.
Egypt is the poster boy for African central bank and financial markets outside South Africa. So if you go up north, well, there's a shining star there. They seem to have gotten it all right. I understand they just issued 3 different papers of I think about $3.7 billion or so in Eurobond. Then they're doing a dollar-denominated T-bills and T-bonds. Look, give it to Egypt. They've been able to do the financial markets and currency. But on the other thing, one other thing that President Al-Sisi also did was that some of the structural issues outside the monetary system were also taken care of. We haven't taken care of this in Nigeria. We have a backlog of these structural issues, and they kept coming up. So the issue with the exchange rate and all that is one issue on one hand. But look, the World Bank, the IMF, the World Bank is just giving Nigeria $500 million to help with our metering program. It's been very messy tempo. The central bank is putting about 40-50 billion into metering issue in Nigeria. Now the World Bank is giving us $500 million to help the discos, and it's not going to go through all of them. It goes to only the power distribution companies that have the cash flow and that have transparency in their operations. So we haven't fixed electricity issue. So even if we do the exchange rate, folks who want to bring money in will still ask us questions, show me the light. We don't have it. We have road massive infrastructure. You can't get farm produce out. There's so much insecurity. It's all in the latest Article 4 consultation paper report of the IMF for Nigeria. So we have a whole lot of backlog of work to do.
Right, true. Great. Adi, let me get your thoughts on this as well.
Yes, you know, I think what Bosun is saying is interesting. It's, you know, let there be light. Without light, you can't power the economy. You certainly can't power an economy on generators. What I would say is, look, it's not rocket science anymore. I mean, you've got so much sunshine, solar's there, you've all got all the gas, you've got everything to put this together. It still strikes me as a very strange situation that you haven't got it going. And your people are so entrepreneurial. Your human capital quotient is very, very high, and I really think if you've got that power element right, it's education, it's power that really unleash economies and demography. And you've got the ingredients to cook up a really fast-growing economy. I think somehow your policymakers have got to unleash it. Just to finish off with Egypt, as Barson said, I mean, when it comes to financial markets, messaging, understanding, raising capital. They also did a very big Eurobond yesterday, which went off extremely successfully. These guys are in Premier League. Our people are in Division 2, Division 3. They understand it. They know what they're doing. And really, we might disagree with the politics of President Al-Sisi, but we certainly can't disagree with the economic policy, because really, if you could apply that across the continent, we'd be flying, frankly.
Appreciate that coming from you, Ali. Chima, let me come back to you to wrap up for us and square up the two key headlines here in relation to the market. BUA Group buying 1 million doses for the Nigerian for Nigeria as a country. Then you have Prestige Assurance story. Put these two together. I mean, what should we be looking forward to in the markets today?
Thank you, Temple. So regarding the news about BUA Group buying 1 million doses of the COVID-19 vaccine for Nigeria, I think it's something we should expect to see happening going forward from other private individuals, much like what we saw when the COVID-19 virus first got into Nigeria. And we saw many of these companies trying to pull up funds for a COVID fund for Nigerians, and to also give palliatives and all that. So I think it's something we should expect to see, especially given the budget constraints that Nigeria is facing. One thing that may now be a problem is disbursing, much like we saw with the distribution of the palliatives. It will now be a concern as to how these doses or these vaccines may now be distributed. But I think the key thing is, I think we'll continue to see more private organizations or more organizations coming out to donate some of these vaccines. And this should also help with market sentiments in terms of recovery, health recovery, and economic recovery. In terms of Prestige Assurance, which recorded 18% growth in its gross income rather. I think with the COVID-19 happening, it just brought a lot of it put a lot more spotlight on the need for health insurance and the need for people to be safer in terms of medical care. So I think that has boosted or sort of boosted their life assurance policy offerings, and that's what we saw. However, if we look at the reports for the company, we'd also see that they had to pay a lot more in claims compared to last year. In fact, the company complained, or we would see that the claims they paid out were much more than the premiums that they recorded. So is something that we should continue to see for the company and maybe other insurance companies. Although if we look at the stock market performance, we'll see that the insurance sector is the best performing sector in terms of year-to-date performance. So I think that sector, or those companies and that sector, have a profitable year ahead of them, and we should continue to see that play out.
Thanks a great deal, Chima Okadike, consumer goods analyst with Vetiva Capital Management. I appreciate your analysis on the show. Ali Kansachu, CEO and founder of Rich Frontiers Management in Nairobi, Kenya. Thanks a great deal for joining us. Bosunam Ofaya, executive editor here on Frontier Africa Reports. I appreciate your insights as well. I'm Temple Ashadu. This has been Frontier Opening Bell. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.